Welcome to Candlewick Library. I'm Cheryl. Today I'm sharing what I'm planning on reading in August. First, I'm going to share the 2 readathons that I'm going to be taking part in August, and then I will talk about the books I'm going to read. Okay, so first I'm going to mention the end of summer mood readathon that's put on by Christy A. Cole. I had a lot of fun with this one last year, and I think that it is such a great readathon to do in general, but if you're doing any other readathons, it works really well with them. It makes you pause and think after each book, but it doesn't add any extra prompts to any other readathons. So, for example, I have one readathon I'm going to talk about in a minute. That is the one I was planning on doing in August. This I can do on top of that, and instead of adding extra prompts, it just is giving me a question to ask myself after each book that I read. So throughout August, I can read the books in the order that I want to, and I will mark off some of them for the other readathon. But then for each book, I can ask myself a question. So I printed out the graphic that she has. It has all of the questions. I'm not going to go through all of them. I urge you to go over and watch her video or one of the videos from her co-host. The very first one says, name a good quote from this book. If there are several, please share. So it's easy things like that. And what I did last year is when I would read the book, I would do my own little review in my reading journal, and then I would put the answer to this question right after that. Also, if you do any wrap-up videos, you can answer the question on that as well. And her co-hosts are Christine at King Cat Chris, Paola at Reading in Darkness, Emily at Emily to Read Her Heart, Molly at Molly J Books, Kelly at Bookish Kelly, Lucy at the Lucy Chronicles, and Reese at the Writing Songbird. We'll have those all linked below, and I will definitely recommend adding this to your August if you're not participating in any readathons, but also even if you are. The big one I've been planning on doing in August, I was hoping she was going to do it again this year, and she is Anne at In Search of Wonder, her Prairie Trail readathon. This is the printout I did of the map graphic, and this has a little covered wagon, and along the way there's just a little place where you can put these little mini cards. So it just says challenge card on each of these spots, so you can do the challenges in the order you want and then add them in there. I did print out the little versions of the challenge cards, but I'm thinking I need to redo it with stickers on sticker paper so I can stick them right on there. I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. But her husband did make some stickers for the challenge that I also did print out so that I can use them in my reading journal. So this year with this readathon, she has challenge cards that are books and then challenge cards that are activity challenges. To complete the board, you have to do 10 challenges. She has the challenges on bigger cards as well, and you can just randomly go through the card deck and pick one as you go along, whatever you want to do. So I'll link to her channel below. Go watch her announcement video. It is going to be fun. It was so much fun last year. The biggest challenge with this readathon is that you are reading books that take place in the westward expansion, Oregon Trail, Pioneer Wagon Train time period. So with the prompts, it is a challenge this year. You're on a team and you're trying to win the competition. So you want to get as many points as possible. However, if you do read a book that is off topic but fits the prompt, you can have 1 point. And then if it fits the topic, then you get more points. You get put into one of the 2 different teams on Discord. Once you join it on her announcement video, you can join the challenge. She will put you into one of the teams. I got put into Team Oregon. Really want to try to get as many points as possible for my team, but I also am just going to read what I can and hope for the best. And I knew that there were a few books I wanted to read in August that do not have anything to do with this time period. So I'm going to probably go with some lower points for some of my books and then just try my best to get more points and read more in August. So the reason that I have some books that are off topic that are priorities is because of my yearly challenges. For my Jurassic reading challenge, the prompt for August is Pteranodon, and it's a book that has air travel. I'm planning on rereading Airframe by Michael Crichton. This is a book that takes place on a plane. 3 passengers are dead, 56 are injured, the interior cabin virtually destroyed, but the pilot manages to land the plane. I remember this being really good. I really liked it, but it's been a long time since I read it. This also will go toward me rereading a bunch of Michael Crichton's books to see if I still like them. But I'm also hoping to be able to use it for the readathon as well. I'm just not sure yet which prompt I would use that for. So I may or may not be able to use that one. For the Reading the Classics challenge, which is Anne's yearly challenge, and my American literature course, for August, I'm going to be reading East of Eden. It has been a very long time since I've read this book, but it's been one of my top 10 favorites for a very long time. I need to make sure that it still is. And also, with how much I've loved this book, I'm surprised I haven't read it more often. So I really want to get to this, but it is a very big book. So I can use this for the readathon for the hunting challenge, which the hunting has a page count. And so whatever page count you have counts for your animal, and you get your points for that. So if I'm correct, if I'm understanding correctly, then even when it's off topic, you can get the maximum points. And so this is over 500 pages, so it would count for the buffalo prompt for the buffalo hunting, which is the highest amount of points, the 5 points for that. I was given this book, Bachelor Nation, Inside the World of America's Favorite Guilty Pleasure by Amy Kaufman. And it's been sitting around for a very long time. And I don't watch any of the Bachelor shows, but I used to watch them. And so I think it will be interesting, but I've kind of been putting it off just since I don't watch that anymore. But I'm thinking that this might be something I try to get to in August because it seems like a good summer read. It feels like it'll be something really quick. And I think I'll know pretty soon into it whether I want a DNF or keep reading it. So it should be a pretty easy book. And if I do decide to read the whole thing, then I can try to see if it will fit for one of the prompts. Now the rest of the books are on topic ones. And I still haven't decided whether I'm going to cut out those cards and have the little deck and decide what I'm reading based on what I pick. But I do know a couple of them I'm for sure going to be reading. So it's probably going to be a little bit of a mixture of both. But I have picked which prompts I think would work for each of these books, just in case I decide not to do the cards. Or if I do the cards, I'll know immediately which book that means. So hopefully that all made sense. So the first book is Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. I have never read any Francine Rivers books before, and I've been wanting to read this for a while. I've heard really, really mixed reviews about it, but I think it'll be something that I'll like. So this says it's California's gold country in 1850. And it basically looks like that the main girl in it is a prostitute to survive, and that there's a man who's a religious good man who helps her to get out of that life or to see herself for who she really is. I'm not 100% sure. I believe it is a biblical retelling or biblically inspired, something like that. So I'm thinking that I would end up using this for the enemy attack. Try a genre you don't normally read for 4 points. Because I don't read very many biblical retellings. I've read a few that I really liked and a few that I didn't, and so I don't read them as often. So that is what I'm thinking this would probably be used for, but I really do want to get to this one. And then the same used bookstore I bought that at, I also got A Scarlet Thread by Francine Rivers, and this one has 2 different stories, 2 different timelines. One is, it says, a woman of today, bold, determined, life about to be turned upside down. And then Mary Catherine McMurray is a young pioneer on the Oregon Trail. She is filled with anger at being uprooted from her home. And it says they're centuries apart, but they're joined through a journal. And it looks like there's some journal entries in this. And so I'm thinking I will probably try to use this, Loneliness and Isolation, which is Read an Epistolary Book, for 3 points, but I don't know. I don't know if that would count for an epistolary book since it's not all epistolary. So I may use it for that, or I might even use it for giving the snake bite, give a book or author a second chance, since it would be the second book I would probably read by her unless I read this one first. And also I will be buddy reading this with Alma at Alma's Book Journey. I'm kind of excited to see what I think of Francine Rivers' writing because I hear so much about her. And then one of my other probably biggest priorities of the month is Riders of the Purple Sage by Zane Grey. I just found out about this book about a month and a half ago, and apparently it's one of the earliest, biggest Westerns. So this is telling the story of the main characters having run-in with early Mormons in the Mormon territory. Fictional town of Cottonwood, Utah, which is funny because there is a Cottonwood, but I guess this is a fictional city. It sounds really interesting. So I'm going to try to use this one for injury. Read a book that might trigger you for 5 points, because with the early Mormon history and what it sounds like it's going to be about with that, I think it will trigger me in some ways. So I'm looking forward to this one, and I'm very interested in it. With my Michael Crichton challenge, one of the other books by him that I want to reread is Dragon Teeth. This takes place in the Bone Wars. In fact, this is the book that the first time I read it is how I even found out about the Bone Wars. I've never heard of that before I read this book. And that is where there were different groups that were in a race basically to find and get the best dinosaur skeletons. For this, I'm thinking of using it for either a fort or town refuel, which is reread a favorite for 2 points, or the second chance thing for 4 points. So whichever one I'm able to use that for, I would like to reread this one because it is on my list to reread this year anyway, so I might as well read it in August if I can. In April on our road trip, I talked about going to Vernal, which is where there is the Dinosaur National Monument, where there's a big bone quarry wall, and Earl Douglas is the man who founded it, and I bought this book when I was there. It's called Speak to the Earth, and it will teach you the life and times of Earl Douglas. This is mostly told in his journal entries, so it could be used for that prompt, but I think I'm going to be able to use this for the nonfiction, which is Mountain Pass, and it's 5 points. So I'm really hoping to get to this, and I think this would be one that I would probably read from every day, just a little bit every day for the whole month, because it is a little bit big, but the font is also kind of large, so I don't think it would take as long as it appears like it would. And then I also talked a few months ago about a book I wanted to get to but didn't, and that was Down the Long Hills by Louis L'Amour, because I loved the movie of this when I was a kid. But I also remember that there was a Louis L'Amour book I read as a child that had a scene in it that I've never been able to get out of my mind. And I've always wanted to find out which one it was, and I think it might be this one. Because this talks about how that an entire wagon train is massacred and just 2 kids survive. And I'm pretty sure that is the scene I remember. It was people being killed in a wagon train. So I think that it might be this one. I really want to read it and see if it's the same book. And for this, I would probably use it for Snowstorm. Read a book that gives you chills for 4 points, because there is a snowstorm on the cover. And if it is the book I remember, then it would give me chills because it was really traumatic. So I read it when I was in like 3rd grade, and that's a long time to have had that scene in my head. And then the last book that I'm really hoping to get to, I've had this on my TBR for quite a few years. It was first recommended to me by Emma at A Bookish Princess, and that is The Virginian, A Horseman of the Plains by Owen Wister. This also is one of the very first Western books. This doesn't have a blurb about it. I just remember her talking about it and talking about how great it was. So I can't give you very much information about it, except that this is a man who lives on the East Coast. Right there in mid-sentence, my battery just died, so the sound will be different for the next few minutes. Sorry about that. A man from Virginia who goes west. So I think this will be really interesting. And I'm planning on reading this for Fire, a book that is a 5-star prediction or highly recommended. I am highly motivated to read all of those books. And like I said, I do have a few that are off topic that are priority, and then a few that are on topic that are priority. And then after that, it will just be whatever I can get to. And then I will be doing the mood reading questions with each one of them. So I will let you know in the wrap up what books I read and what I thought of them, and answer those questions for Christy's readathon as well. I would love to know if you're taking part in either of these readathons, and if you've read any of these books, if there's any that you think should be the priority that you love.